Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, April 8th, 2021, and we've got a lot to talk about today. It's been a busy news day. And as usual, we're going to do news for about an hour. Then we're going to open up the phone lines and let you call on in with your opinions, comments, questions, and observations. Mike is in our control room taking care of business, so let's get right on into it. President Biden is getting ready for what he anticipates as intense negotiations with Congress over his infrastructure and jobs plan, and said he was willing to compromise but would not slow his push for one of the most bold and expensive proposals in recent years. And it's already come under tremendous criticism because infrastructure is being redefined to include caregiving in order to shift the spending of the money away from white middle-class males who work in construction and toward minorities and women who work in the caregiving industry. So it's already being politicized, and a lot of people are saying this is not really going to help the country all that much. So Biden is pressing his case for the domestic initiative in global terms, saying that autocratic leaders around the world, particularly in China, were too sluggish or divided to make the necessary investment in roads, bridges, electric grids, or more. And frankly, I don't think he's had a good look at China lately, because China's infrastructure has just been doing amazing things in recent years. Okay, pardon me. Story coming on out of Information Liberation. Biden's equity-focused infrastructure plan seeks to crush single-family zoning. And Trump is basically warning that Biden wants to abolish the suburbs, and this is starting to prove to be accurate. Okay, now, interestingly enough, getting into politics and vote fraud, over in New Hampshire, the House there has passed Senate Bill 43 to mandate an audit of Wyndham's disturbing 2020 election results. New Hampshire activist and Granite Grok contributor Ken Ehring sent out this action alert on Tuesday and said that this Senate bill mandates an audit of Wyndham's disturbing November 3rd, 2020 general election results that produced a massive discrepancy between the machine vote tally for the state representative race on Election Day and a hand recount 9 days later. The recount showed a difference of 1,363 votes for the state representative race being shifted, with only 10,000 ballots being cast. That is a huge discrepancy. We're talking 13%, and they want to know why. Can you say cheater? And Senator Bob Giuda spearheaded a Herculean effort to push Senate Bill 43 through the Senate with a unanimous 24-0 vote in February, because the Attorney General's office refused to perform an investigation into the disturbing results. And the bill will subsequently strengthen was subsequently strengthened via a House amendment and passed by the House Election Law Committee 20-0. And it's now gone to the full House and apparently has passed there by a huge margin. So once again, we're seeing state governments stepping in to verify the honesty of last November's election, where the federal government absolutely would not do that. Now, there is an organization called Protect Democracy, and this is the group that is threatening the Arizona auditors. And it turns out this group is connected to Obama, Soros, China, and Joe Biden's Department of Justice. They are really trying to keep any progress from being made regarding validating the election from last November. Okay, progressives are still denying election fraud is real, but the statistics keep showing otherwise. And over in Texas, an official in their attorney general's office testified during a state house hearing that the number of election fraud cases in Texas is currently at an all-time high. The amount was higher than our historical average by a long shot, declared Jonathan White, head of the Special Election Fraud Agency with the Texas Attorney General's Special Prosecution Division, to the Texas House Elections Committee last week. Now, White was offering his perspective as a neutral witness as the committee considered House Bill 6, legislation by Chairman Briscoe Cain, that would strengthen the penalties for voter fraud, add protections for poll watchers, and give more priority to election fraud claims in Texas courts. And that's a really good thing. Meanwhile, up in Pennsylvania, as part of a settlement to a lawsuit there, they have been forced to remove 21,000 dead people off the voter rolls. Now, why you would have dead people on the voter rolls to begin with, obviously is going to raise some suspicions, in particular if those 21,000 people somehow managed to vote from the graveyard. Story coming on out of The Guardian. Georgia, as you know, is this battleground for clean elections, and it looks like Texas and Arizona are getting ready to join into the battle. Georgia Republicans are facing a huge backlash over new sweeping voter restrictions, and activists in other states are escalating efforts to oppose similar restrictions advancing in other states. What are those restrictions? Well, showing a voter ID is the big one. And the Democrats do not want voter ID to be shown because that way illegal immigrants can vote, dead people can vote, and they can go on stealing elections left and right in perpetuity. Getting into other politics here, a trip Matt Gaetz allegedly took to the Bahamas with a marijuana entrepreneur 2 years ago is now being scrutinized by federal officials investigating sex trafficking allegations against the Florida congressman. Apparently, the marijuana entrepreneur hired a couple of escorts to join them, and they are basically stretching the meaning of sex trafficking to include this idea of inviting a couple of ladies of the evening to go along with you. Cuomo is still dealing with problems of sexual accusation. There's one of his aides, a staffer, is now accusing Cuomo of groping her in the executive mansion last November, about how he gave her an overtly sexual hug before sticking his hand under her blouse and grabbing her breast while ignoring her protests. Okay. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you've been hearing a lot about her. She has raked in over $3.2 million in the first quarter as a freshman congresswoman. This is nearly 5 times more than the money raised by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in her first 3 months in office. And it looks like that Marjorie Taylor Greene may have actually benefited from the backlash over her controversial remarks. Getting on over to the Derek Chauvin case, the media is kind of trying to make this look like it's a slam dunk, that Derek Chauvin is guilty, that he's going to be convicted. But people who are actually observing the trial are saying, no, that doesn't really seem to be the case. And former Minneapolis police officer Chauvin's defense lawyers played an audio of George Floyd saying, "I ate too many drugs" while he was being detained. And that, of course, would give an alternative cause of death to him being kneeled on. Now, the lead investigator in Derek Chauvin's case has changed his testimony, saying that George Floyd did not say he ate too many drugs, saying that he ain't doing no drugs. So they're thrashing around with that. Story coming on out of Hideout Now. Derek Chauvin jury heard how his defense team found a half-chewed speedball pill in a patrol car with George Floyd's DNA on it 8 months after the police supposedly searched it, and a forensic investigator who saw it said it wasn't important enough to process, but it does establish that drugs were involved in what went down. Story out of Ann Coulter's website, pointing out nobody's really watching the trial of Derek Chauvin. They're basically relying on corporate media, which is getting away with spectacular lying to the public, saying how the prosecution is just slam dunking the whole thing. And in reality, it's quite the opposite. In less than a week, the prosecution's theory of the crime has shifted away from outright murder to simply failing to provide full and complete duty of care during the 1 to 3 minute interval between Floyd's resisting the police to his dying while a hostile crowd screamed obscenities at the police officer. And they're saying, Ann Coulter is saying, you got to watch the actual trial because what's being put out in the media is very dishonest. And Ben Shapiro over at Tethasta.com is saying exactly the same thing. The corporate media is paving the way for riots with their skewed coverage of the Chauvin trial. It's a one-sided view being given to the public about how Chauvin is guilty, and there's no reason they should not find him so. And we're already hearing from various people like that model on TikTok saying that the cities are going to burn down if Derek Chauvin is not convicted of murder. So we're being set up for more major riots inside the United States when that trial comes to an end. Story coming on out of Station Gossip. New polls are showing that the majority of Americans believe the corporate news media is in the tank for Joe Biden, because clearly they are, and they're not even trying to hide it. And the liberal media may be more dishonest than the Biden porn family, which is definitely out there. Now, 60 Minutes did a segment on Republican Governor Ron DeSantis regarding vaccine distribution, and they did some deceptive editing on the interview they did for him, and it wound up kind of unraveling very quickly, and inadvertently has dragged Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom into the spotlight regarding his no-bid vaccine contract. So that has backfired on them. Over at Twitter, despite a request from the National Archives that a complete record be preserved of all of Donald Trump's tweets onto his account, Twitter is not going to allow an archive of Trump's real Donald Trump account on its platform. And the Twitter spokesman told the Hill the platform had been working with the National Archives and Records Administration to preserve tweets from the account, but content from the account will not appear on Twitter itself because he has been banned. Getting on to COVID-19, Fauci is unable to explain why Texas which reopened 100% a month ago, continues to see COVID cases in decline. And Fauci literally came on out and said, I'm not really quite sure. And the number of new cases, deaths, hospitalizations, ICU occupancy have all fallen since the state reopened. Meanwhile, the CDC has backtracked again. They're now saying there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting China coronavirus from surfaces. So all these companies that were selling products to disinfect all the surfaces in your home, it looks like it really wasn't necessary after all. Story coming on out of the Daily Mail. A pop-up mass vaccination clinic in Colorado has been shut down after 11 people suffered adverse reactions to the Johnson & Johnson shots administered there. More than 600 people's appointments at the Vaccines for All event at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City were canceled on Wednesday when the clinic was forced to close at 3:30 in the afternoon. And Centura Health, which sponsored the event, said 11 people had adverse reactions such as nausea and dizziness in the on-site observation area minutes after receiving their Johnson & Johnson shot. And when Claire and I got our shots, we had to wait 15 minutes before they would let us leave to make sure there wasn't an adverse reaction. And there were none reported at the place where we got our shots other than a couple of panic attacks from people who have let the fear-mongering get the better of them. 62 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will now have to be checked for contamination. And they came out of the Baltimore factory that already ruined 15 million doses of the vaccine, according to the New York Times. So they're being very sloppy. The quality control just isn't there. Last February, workers at a factory run by Emergent Biosolutions, a biotech firm known for producing anthrax vaccines, unknowingly cross-contaminated roughly 15 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, with AstraZeneca's permanently ruining the batch. So now they're having to check an additional 62 million doses of the vaccine. Being very reckless about this. This story is kind of weird, and I read it and I started thinking about, Count Dracula or something. It's a story coming out of big league politics, and it talks about how powerful tech corporations are investing billions of dollars into startups that plan to harvest the blood of children to inject into old people for rejuvenation and anti-aging. Now, Newsweek did a profile on the growing industry, which includes injecting stem cells taken from dead, mutilated fetuses into people. And basically, these scientists are playing God with sometimes disastrous consequences. Stanford University neurologist Tony Weiss-Corey found years ago, with the help from Saul Valita in 2011 and 2014, that injecting the blood of young mice into older mice had tremendously positive effect on their brain chemistry. His company, Alkahest, has done additional research in subsequent years. I'm very, very concerned about how children are going to be exploited by the aged and rich with this kind of technology. So Spanish firm Grifols purchased Alkahest for $146 million, which is going to open up the Pandora's box for harvesting the blood of children. Now, they're looking to find a synthetic fountain of youth from researching the plasma of young volunteers. This work is changing the field of geroscience forever, for better, we hope, possibly for worse. Now, not too long ago, the World Health Organization came on out with their investigation on the origin of COVID-19, and they dismissed the idea that this virus was released from the Wuhan laboratory. But now scientists are coming on out and saying, no, we can't trust the World Health Organization. We need a new legitimate probe with or without China. It looks to me like they're trying to bolster the propaganda case that China is somehow responsible for all of this. And here's another interesting story to illustrate the golden rule of science, as in whoever has the gold determines the science. Kiel University has canceled all aluminum research after one of their scientists, Christopher Exley, PhD, linked aluminum in vaccines to various human health problems, including autism. And in response to that, Kiel University shut down Exley's website. They're actively blocking any charitable funds to his project and his research team. These philanthropic funds have been used for nearly 4 decades to support Exley's research on the bioinorganic chemistry of aluminum and to better understand aluminum's role in neurodegenerative diseases. So much for institutions of higher education. Turning to the international news, the U.S. continues to deliver military cargo to Ukraine while it continues to point the finger of guilt at Russian military movements on their side of the border. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And welcome back to our show here, and a reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network does need your continuing support to go on with our work of keeping the American people fully informed so that they can make good choices. And once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And remember, if you send in a donation of $100 or more, you get your choice of an RBN coffee mug or an official RBN t-shirt. So obviously, you need to include your return address and your t-shirt size. And if you donate $115 or more, you will get both items. And don't forget, the Front Sight Firearms deal is still going on, and that really is a very, very good deal for shooting enthusiasts right now. Getting on back to the international news, over April 5th and going into the 6th, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their usual activity of deploying more troops to the demarcation line. Russia is also transferring forces to the border with Ukraine and in the Crimea. Over the last 24 hours, there have been separate ceasefire violations, each including a high number of shots and artillery shells. 2 Ukrainian armed forces soldiers were killed. So they're definitely ganging up there, as it were. Russia warns that the beginning of the end of Ukraine will be imminent if Russia has to defend its citizens, as Putin continues to build his forces on the border. And a senior Kremlin official today warned that if Russia is forced to defend its citizens in the disputed Donbass region, it would be the beginning of the end of Ukraine. Tensions have been soaring in eastern Ukraine in recent weeks after Vladimir Putin dispatched tanks, helicopters, and thousands of troops to the Ukrainian border. Okay. Biden is getting ready to prepare new sanctions on Putin's inner circle after a supposed investigation into Russia's hack of solar winds, which is not proven, the bounties on U.S. troops, which turned out to be a fake story, and repeated election meddling. And that last one is problematic because you have Biden and his circle insisting that last November's election was perfectly honest and perfectly fair, and yet now they're trying to say, well, Russia may have been interfering with that election, and they certainly did back in 2016. Bad Russia, bad Russia, bad Russia. Report that we're getting now out of antiwar.com, and they are in turn quoting Bloomberg. The Biden administration is considering expelling the Russian diplomats and imposing even more sanctions. And sanctions, as the previous article mentioned, would be on individuals close to Vladimir Putin. And the Russian diplomats, the U.S. claim, have ties to Russian intelligence. But expulsion of diplomats is a red warning sign that nobody's interested in calming the situation down. It is definitely an escalation. Meanwhile, the Kremlin is saying that they're ready for the worst-case scenarios. They're responding to the comment about a potential expulsion from the U.S., and let's see, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, said, "You see, the hostility and unpredictability of the U.S. side's actions in general obligate us to be prepared for the worst scenarios. When your interlocutor is quite aggressive and unpredictable, you are naturally mobilized all the time. In general, it seems the number of your questions about Russian-U.S. relations largely exceeds the volume of those relations." So that's not looking good either. Russia still does not want relations between Russia and the U.S. to deteriorate, but it doesn't seem to be up to them at this point. Interestingly enough, the Russian security chief Nikolai Patrushev, is saying that COVID-19 should show the American people that the real danger to American lives is in public health, not anything coming from Moscow. And Nikolai said, it turns out the main threat to the lives of Americans is not a malicious Moscow. In the United States, the death toll from the epidemic exceeded 500,000, which is more than their losses in both world wars combined. Well, he's certainly right about that. The Kremlin is responding to Washington's plan to appoint a special representative for the Nord Stream 2 project. And they're basically calling it an envoy to make it look like it's a diplomatic effort. But Russia is saying that the United States is clearly meddling in other nations' affairs. And, they're saying this envoy has nothing to do with the United States. They're operating clearly on another continent. And this is just, again, about trying to shut down the Nord Stream 2 for political and strategic reasons. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org. So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
For over 20 years now, Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here is a testimonial from Amazon.com. I received an arterial switch at birth. In my mid-20s, I started getting slight runs of NSVT. Nothing too serious, but enough to cause worry. I started taking Extendivite a little over 2 years ago, and it helped cut the palpitations and NSVT down drastically. This isn't a cure-all supplement. I strongly recommend a good diet and exercise to aid in any heart troubles you may be having, and I strongly recommend giving Extendivite a try. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite. Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution.
claim private retirement funds, yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash. Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash. Will Congress pay the piper when all the money's gone?
And welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the international news. And let's see, story coming on out of, let's see, where is this from? This is from Zero Hedge. And they're talking about a letter written and signed by veteran intelligence officials urging Biden to avoid a war in Ukraine. And they're saying, the points they make are saying that this policy toward Russia, built on Russia bashing, is inherently dangerous. And they're trying to draw attention to the dangerous situation in Ukraine, where there is a growing risk of war unless Biden takes steps to avoid it. And they call attention to the fact that NATO does not include Ukraine as a member, and therefore Article 5 of the NATO treaty does not apply if there is an armed conflict between Ukraine and Russia. In other words, with Ukraine not being a member of NATO, NATO is under no obligation whatsoever to get involved in that mess. Of course, that's not what we're going to hear from the corporate media and the White House. And the other warning that's in this letter, of course, is that this opens the door to a direct military conflict between the United States and Russia, and that would be a bad thing. Okay, story coming on over from Zero Hedge. The United States has finally agreed to withdraw the remaining combat troops from Iraq following joint talks. Now, weeks ago, the Iraqi government began putting pressure on the Biden administration to enter a new round of talks regarding the withdrawing of all remaining U.S. forces from the country. A process stalled amid tit-for-tat strikes between American forces and what are being called Iran-backed Iraqi paramilitary groups. But for all we know, they were agent provocateurs to create a justification for the United States to remain there in Iraq. Now, there seems to be some progress happening over in Iran. The State Department is saying the U.S. is prepared to lift Iran sanctions, but warns of a long road ahead amid the indirect talks going through Vienna to revive the nuclear pact. And the State Department is saying they're willing to drop the sanctions on Iran that conflict with the 2015 nuclear pact, but suggested Tehran would still have to make concessions of its own, a notion that Iran previously rejected. Iran wants to go back to the letter of the law of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and what the U.S. is going to say, is we'll go back to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but we need a little extra from Iran, a little vigorous to sweeten the deal. And Iran is saying, no, we basically want to go back to that arrangement. The head of Israel's Mossad spy agency is traveling to Washington in the next few days to lobby against Iran, as Israel remains wary of renewed efforts aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear deal between Tehran and major world powers. Israel's Channel 13 TV reported yesterday that Yossi Cohen will visit Washington for meetings with senior White House and U.S. intelligence officials. It will be the first high-level visit by an Israeli official since Joe Biden took office. Netanyahu is out there saying that his best friend should know Israel will not be obligated by the Iranian nuclear deal. Well, they were never part of the deal to begin with, but Israel is trying to send a warning saying that if the deal is revived, it's not going to change their approach to Iran. And Netanyahu came on out and said a deal with Iran threatens us with annihilation, and that will not obligate us. And then he went further on to say that Israel will act against Iran if, in fact, Biden restores the nuclear deal. And he said the danger that Iran will return, and this time with an international imprimatur, to a path that will allow it to develop a nuclear arsenal is on our doorstep on this very day. Now, I wish to point out that Israel has been screaming that Iran is within weeks of producing a nuclear weapon, and they have been making that claim for the last 30 years, and nobody has found any evidence for it at all, one way or the other. So, Netanyahu's just being Netanyahu again. He's still trying to distract from his corruption trial that's going on right now. And Joe Biden is announcing they're lifting sanctions on members of the International Criminal Court. And I think what this is the opening move in an effort to pressure the ICC to drop the investigation as to whether Israel and the United States have in fact committed war crimes against the people of Palestine. So that looks like that's still in play, as it were. Ethiopia is still deadlocked with Sudan and Egypt over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. They're saying all options are open. The recent talks collapsed again. The issue, of course, is when the dam is completed. Egypt and Sudan are both concerned that the amount of water they will receive from the Nile River will be severely cut back, and neither nation is really prepared to accept that. Okay, story coming on out of Madness Hub. Taiwan is preparing for possible military action, and they're holding war games with a computer-simulated Chinese invasion. They're going to run this war games for 8 days. And they said, the defense ministry said, days after China said an aircraft carrier was conducting drills near the island, and such exercises would become routine. We reported on that earlier in the week, where China had sent one of their aircraft carriers to simply, sail around Taiwan and rattle the sabers appropriately. Okay. Meanwhile, another U.S. warship has sailed through the Taiwan Strait, which is a provocation. And the U.S. sailed the warship through the Taiwan Strait Wednesday of this week. The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet said the guided missile destroyer USS John McCain made the provocative passage. As usual, China tracked the vessel and denounced the U.S. provocation. Taiwan, meanwhile, is saying that they will fight to the very last if China attacks. So we're edging closer to war on so many fronts. And, that's how world wars get started. World War I began as a single war between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. World War II basically began as a war between Germany and the Sudetenland. And then everybody says, okay, it's time to have a war, and everybody attacks everybody they don't like. Meanwhile, Japan has sent a destroyer, the JS Suzuki. This is a P-1 Maritime Patrol aircraft and a P-3C anti-submarine warfare patrol aircraft to track the movements and gather information of the Chinese carrier group. So they're keeping an eye on that. Over in Israel, once again, they are bombing the outskirts of Damascus from over on Lebanon. What they'll do is they'll fly up into Lebanon, point toward the border, and fire long-range missiles at Damascus. This, of course, is designed to prevent Syria from shooting back, which would cause damage to Lebanese territory. So this is another, again, an aggression by Israel against their neighbors. Okay, story coming on out of Antebellum. There's a lot of numbers after the end of the thing here. Basically saying that NATO allies and partners from across the globe are preparing for a real-world fight with Russia. And they're talking about the U.S.-led Defender Europe 2021 war games, which are operating in 12 European nations until June. And they are, in fact, practicing for war with Russia. So it's getting nasty. Meanwhile, Russia is getting ready to deploy a nuclear submarine that is armed with a nuclear drone, at least one, probably more than that. It's the Belgorod-class nuclear submarine will serve in the Russian Navy's Pacific Fleet after passing a series of tests. The soon-to-be commissioned vessel, designed to carry Poseidon underwater nuclear drones, has the capability to carry out missions in any part of the world. Russia's got some major submarines they've got under construction here. All right, well, let's get away from the wars and talk about the economy. And we had mentioned something along these lines a little while before. Rio Tinto has kicked off lithium production from waste rock at a plant located at a borates mine it controls in California. This is a demonstration facility where they're showing that they can extract lithium, which is becoming a very valuable metal now, from this waste rock, from the tailings of the boron mine. And there was a small-scale trial in 2019, proved the process of roasting and leaching waste rock to recover high grades of lithium, which is vital to the production of batteries that power electronic vehicles and most high-tech electronics. So there's a little bit of creative way. Meanwhile, and we all saw this one coming, this is from the Washington Times. Yesterday, President Biden announced he's willing to scale back a proposed corporate tax increase in his massive infrastructure plan amid resistance from a key Senate Democrat and a new study that said the plan would sap wages and economic growth in the long run. Well, why didn't he look at that study before he made the earlier announcements about having that tax increase? But he's basically caving in, and once again, corporations and the wealthy will not be paying the lion's share of the taxes. Middle-class America will be. Getting on down to immigration, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yesterday said the border was a total disaster under President Trump, but Joe Biden has saved the day with his totally open borders policy and has put us on a good path at the border. Well, Nancy Pelosi, like most Democrats, simply wants a flood of illegal immigrants to come into the country to become Democratic voters, because after all, they don't have to show the voter ID to vote in most states now. Story coming on out of Cuz Blue, border apprehensions at the northern border continues to escalate. This does not get a lot of coverage in the corporate media, but there are a lot of people crossing illegally into the United States from the Canadian side as well. Meanwhile, Joe Biden and the Immigration Customs Enforcement are converting 7 more hotels along the border into living quarters for the illegal migrant families. And everybody's saying, well, why are they coming up here if things are so bad in this country? Well, because they're being given free stuff. They're staying at these nice hotels, courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is saying that Joe Biden is to blame amid allegations of child abuse and neglect at an overcrowded San Antonio migrant facility. Now, Abbott made the declaration at a press conference yesterday evening following tips to authorities about the alleged abuse occurring inside the Freeman Expo Center, which is currently holding 1,370 migrant children. And Abbott said this facility is a health and safety nightmare. And it's really getting strange out there because the Biden administration has asked NASA to get their employees to you'll pardon the expression, volunteer at the overcrowded border facilities. NASA sent out an email to all their employees asking if they could volunteer at Joe Biden's overcrowded camps for migrants crossing the border. The email was obtained by The Intercept's Ken Klippenstein, and the space agency said the Department of Health and Human Services was looking for people to put themselves for 120 days of work to help unaccompanied kids coming from Mexico. It is believed several other agencies have received similar requests, and it's all very much on the QT because Biden doesn't want you to know how bad things have gotten down there on the border. Michelle Malkin is on the warpath regarding social media and the fact that it is being used for illegal activity regarding people smuggling. And, you know, there's this Open Borders Incorporated racket. NBC News finally reported smugglers are using Facebook to advertise their services in violation of Facebook's policy ban on human exploitation and trafficking. NBC appeared shocked that coordinated illegal activity is booming on Facebook. But interestingly enough, Facebook doesn't seem to be doing anything about it as of right now. Texas and Louisiana are now suing the Biden administration for sanctuary country orders freeing illegal aliens into the United States. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry have filed suit against the Department of Homeland Security for sanctuary country policies that prevent Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents from arresting, detaining, and deporting most illegal aliens. In February, top DHS officials pronounced sanctuary country policies that prevent ICE agents from arresting and deporting about 9 out of every 10 illegal aliens who would otherwise be deported. It really is an open border. And they're just trying to just flood all these people in here. Our economy cannot support this. Okay? Never mind the issue of rigging future elections, and never mind the fact that a surplus of workers is going to drive wages and salaries for ordinary Americans down. Our economy can't support this because we already have lots of Americans out of work. The illegal immigrants, for the most part, are out of work. We're going to be driven into being a socialist state by the sheer weight of the illegal immigrants needing assistance. And we're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and the new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Kosher-certified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. A decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor? The preacher man wags his head while the rich man turns
Welcome
away.
back to our show here, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the wokeness going on here. Over in Arkansas, their legislature has overridden Governor Asa Hutchinson's veto of a bill that bans transitional surgeries and hormone treatments for anyone under the age of 18 in the state. And this bill makes Arkansas the first state to ban these kind of treatments and surgery for transgender youth, or for any youth who are simply confused about what they're doing. The bill prohibits doctors from providing gender-confirming hormone treatment, puberty blockers, or surgery to anyone under 18 years old, or it prevents them from referring them to other providers for the treatment. Now, the bill does not have a provision for youth currently transitioning, but the override follows Hutchinson saying he fully expected the Arkansas legislature to act in this way after signing the veto on Monday. So that fight is still going on here. And Asa Hutchinson literally cited the principles of Ronald Reagan to defend the chemical castration of children. And I mean, that's really kind of out there. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson is out there saying kids can't drink beer, but they can be chemically castrated. And Tucker Carlson ripped into Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson for vetoing the bill to ban hormone treatments for transgender children. You're going to love this next one. And, okay. We're working with a new microphone here, and it's picking up stuff in the background that the old microphone did not, so we'll see what happens with this thing. Anyway, this is a story that is coming out of Your Destination Now, and there are two brothers who are suing a Florida police department for a 2017 altercation where police responded to a disabled man's 911 call, but then arrested him for having weapons all over the wall. It turned out the walls were decorated with Star Trek memorabilia. You know, fake phasers and so forth and so on. And I didn't realize that having weapons on the walls of your house was something you could be arrested for, because if that's the case here in Indiana, I'm in big trouble because I got swords and stuff all over the place here. Getting on to the gun control debate, Biden has announced 6 executive actions on guns. He wants increased background checks for ghost gun buyers. He wants background checks for people buying guns from private parties. He wants red flag laws for states. Those are the laws where anybody who knows you, who thinks you might be a bad person, can have the police come take your guns away. And he is nominating a firearms control advocate to head the ATF. And not waiting for Congress to act on this, Joe Biden is using the Department of Justice to put forward his gun control. And the Justice Department within 60 days will publish model red flag legislation, which these states are expected to conform to. I don't know that they will. And they're going after the ghost guns, even though ghost guns do not represent the majority of firearms used in criminal behavior. Okay, we got to take a break for station identification. We're going to go ahead and open up those phone lines, area code 512-248-8252, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through HealthyWorldStore.com.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. And we're talking about the gun grabbers are out there. And to nobody's surprise, firearm background checks are soaring to record levels in March, or soared to record levels in March, ahead of the Biden gun control push. Every time they come on out and start talking about limiting guns, people go on out and they buy the guns. U.S. News and World Report noted earlier today that the FBI reported a record number of gun background checks in March, nearly 4.7 million background checks, breaking the record high that was just set last January, another month that was marked with violence and turmoil. Notice how they're trying to say the more guns are out there, the more violence and turmoil. I don't think so. Look at Antifa and Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of violence and turmoil there. But they're doing that with bricks. Should we ban bricks? Should we have a 15-day waiting period for trash cans? I mean, it really is kind of ridiculous. Getting on back to Biden's ATF nominee, his name is David Chapman, and he is his fraudulencies nominee to head the ATF, and he has a past history of spreading wild-eyed conspiracy theories about the 1993 Waco siege. And he basically came on out and said that at Waco, cult members used two 50 caliber Barretts to shoot down 2 Texas Air National Guard helicopters. Well, it actually didn't happen. And as a result, he just went on to the next lie. And that's how they basically do what they're doing. Out in Arizona, Governor Doug Ducey has signed legislation that would prohibit police and sheriffs in the state from enforcing any new federal gun laws that violate the Constitution's Second Amendment, which is pretty clear out there, no infringement whatsoever. Proponents of the bill have argued it would ensure that the rights of gun owners are protected from what they describe as potential overreach by the federal government, while critics say the law will undermine cooperation between Arizona law enforcement and federal officials. Well, cooperation is a good thing only if you're both on the same agenda, as it were, here. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Michael Badnerick. Hello, Michael. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi. I just wanted to let your listeners know that I'll be offering my Constitution class. Typically, it's an 8-hour class that I teach in person, but I'll be offering it online beginning just over a week from now, starting April 19th, which is Patriots Day, and it will be Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. They can find a link on my website, which is badnaric.org.
Okay.
And it would be under the services menu. I have a lot of people telling me that people are very, very interested in the Constitution these days.
Yes, they are, and they should be.
Well, they should be. I'm not quite sure that they're interested for the right reasons. I think they really just kind of want problems to go away by themselves.
That's not going to happen.
It's not.
No.
I don't think people understand why they should be interested in the Constitution. And I have a video on my website called How to Form a Civil Society. And I think that sets the stage for why people should be interested in the Constitution. So normally I teach this at a physical location, and people have to travel to that site, stay in a hotel. This kind of reduces the overhead. All you have to do is just log in, and it's only 2 hours each evening, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And it should give people the fundamental information that they need.
Now, you ran for president in 2004, am I correct?
You are correct.
And you're a libertarian, and perhaps you could tell us the URL of the website where people can find more information about your Constitution class.
The URL is basically my last name, BADNARIK.org.
Okay.
At naric.org. And you get a big splash page. The Constitution class is listed under services, but there are videos that you can watch and documents that you can download, hopefully to increase your education and whet your appetite to make you more interested in the subject.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners?
The United States is in deep, serious trouble. I don't think anybody is coming to save us. And so as Americans, we need to understand why the Founding Fathers dedicated their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. If we don't understand the motivation behind the Founding Fathers, then the United States is lost. This is a critical, all or nothing at all kind of a moment.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right about that. It is a very, very critical moment in our history, and definitely, people need to start facing up to what's going on right now and stop living in denial anymore.
I agree completely.
Okay, well, Michael, thank you very much for the phone call. And once again, that's BADNARIK.org for videos and the Constitution class. We're going to let you go and switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I know you're a big fan of the United States Constitution.
Yes.
Any country's Constitution is very important. Just tell me exactly what that is again, because everybody needs to hear this.
What, the Constitution? That's the original contract
No.
with America.
What it actually is. It's an agreement
Yes.
between the government.
Well, it's the rules
People
by
that are
which
elected
we, the people, allow the government to manage our national sovereignty. And the most important part of that Constitution are the first 10 amendments, otherwise known as the Bill of Rights, and they're trying to take those away from us. Fourth Amendment is pretty much all gone. They're going after the Second Amendment. Now they're trying to erode the First Amendment, and they're turning this country into something very, very ugly.
Yeah, and the sad thing is it's illegal.
Yes.
Because nothing supersedes a country's constitution. Right?
Absolutely correct. And, in my opinion, following last November's election, the federal government is illegitimate because that election was a fraud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that. So I noticed that a few of the better states in the United States have already issued their own non-pass. There's never going to be a vaccination passport.
Yes.
I know there won't be one in Florida, and there won't be one in Texas and a few others. But even up here in Canada, we're reading about this vaccination passport thing, and right in our Canadian Constitution, we have something called mobility rights.
Yes.
And every citizen in Canada, not anybody that just waltzes in, a citizen of Canada has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. Every citizen or permanent resident has the right to move and to take up residence in any province and to pursue the gaining of a livelihood in any province. So
yes.
There's no such thing. See, your country federally could have, a vaccination passport, meaning that people from other countries can't come in unless they've been, unless their gene therapy has been administered into their arm. And any country can do that, but your country's really big. The country I live in is really big. I've never seen all of the country I live in, and I'm sure there are a bunch of people that haven't seen all of the country that they live in the United States. So, I mean, is it really that important? If there is, like France has a vaccination passport, just don't go there. I'm sure after a while they'll stop because they're going to suffer.
Yes, I agree.
And they'll suffer hard because France isn't a very big country. It's like even up here in Canada, if we were to have this vaccination passport for whatever reason, according to this Constitution that I just read, no one can stop anyone that is a Canadian citizen from going from Newfoundland all the way to BC and there and back again and up and down to the Northwest Territories and all of it. No one can stop you. You can get on a plane, you might have to wear a mask, but you know what? You're getting off that plane, you're going to go where you want to go. It doesn't matter. But if we put up one of these vaccination passports and people flying into our country that, let's say, like you and me, regular folk, not the rich people, the regular folk, you cannot get off that plane because you haven't been properly vaccinated. How long do you think it's going to take to hurt this country?
It's already hurting this country.
It won't take long at all.
This COVID nonsense is already hurting this country. It made a bad economy worse, and it's just been mismanaged from day one.
Oh, big time. You know what, Mike? I'm looking at something, a dollar's worth, purchasing power of the U.S. dollar.
Yes.
And this boggles the mind. $1 in 1913 could buy 30 Hershey's chocolate bars.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you the real level in inflation.
Yes.
In 2020, the U.S. money supply grew by $3.8 trillion, which is 20% of all the dollars ever created.
Yes.
In 1 year. So what's inflation? Is that like 25%?
Yeah, that's a lot of inflation, and they're trying to hide those numbers from the American people, and they're trying to hide the inflation. But sooner or later, those inflationary pressures are going to really drive up prices. We're already seeing it. Gas prices are going up. Food prices are going up. The price of wood is going up. And we're heading into some really, really rough time. And again, it gets back to my opinion that our country is being very poorly managed.
It's not just yours. The country I live in is actually, it's so poorly managed. Even the people lining up to get this experimental gene therapy can't even get one yet. And here's what they do to ramp up this, this fear factor. Now there's these variants like the super duper or the double variant or whatever they call this stuff now.
Yeah.
To make people even more afraid of this, right?
Okay.
It just so happens that we're starting to get into a point where we're about to get, I think, about 3 or 4 million gene therapy doses, right? We're really far behind. We're like 50th in the world here up in Canada. And it made me wonder yesterday, because I was thinking about this in the variants. When did the variant first pop up in the UK?
I forget when that happened.
Vaccination.
But it almost seems like every time the population begins to relax from the COVID fear, there's a new mutation or a new variation, and the vaccines may not work. And, very clearly they're trying to keep the fear level high.
Oh yeah, and they're forcing. Like you said, there were people when you went to get your Johnson & Johnson shot that were having anxiety attacks, panic attacks.
Yes.
Because they're actually terrified of what they're doing, but they gave into the fear. Fear begets fear, right?
Yeah, but eventually fear burns itself out because fear requires certain neurotransmitters in your brain, and when you're kept afraid long enough, you run out of those neurotransmitters. Your brain can't remanufacture them fast enough, and you simply stop being afraid. You're incapable of being terrorized anymore, and that's when the anger starts coming out.
Yeah, and that's even worse because what's worse than being irrationally terrified or fearful, because it's fight or flight, right?
Yes.
Is the other end. Is fear, being angry. When people get angry, they do very, very, very irrational things. And
Agreed.
You mix a little bit of alcohol or drugs in with that, it's a powder keg. And we're at this point now with this nonsense going on all over the world.
Yes.
And it's getting worse. Like where I live, we're in a full down the stay-at-home orders. Right?
Okay.
By the provincial government, but I'm an essential worker, so I still go to work. But a lot of people, Mike, when I look outside and I look at that parking lot, it's full. It's full in the morning when I leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's full when I come home. A lot of people aren't working again. They can't print us into prosperity or even a living, because if they could, it would have happened by now.
Okay.
So it's getting bad up here too. I mean, it's really bad up here, Mike. Really bad. Like people are, when you talk to people, they're at the edge. They're on the edge.
Yes.
They're right on the edge.
Yes, they are.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know whether it's a mental thing or it takes a few people to get together and start talking. Next thing you know, they go to City Hall and they overthrow the government, and then boom, Trudeau's hanging by one leg from a tree or something.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all I got. I'm starting to ramble now. I appreciate your time, Mike. It was nice to hear from Dustin.
Yes, it was.
Really nice. I'm glad he phones in again.
I am too, and I hope he calls in again. So, Al, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. Getting on back to the wokeness, there is a leaked teacher training video out of Virginia that shows how the cultish critical race theory is being pushed by the school administration. They're basically telling the Virginia teachers, you've got to have this in your classroom. And again, somebody is going to start a race war with all of this, because critical race theory is out there saying that all the world's problems are the cause of white people, and it's fomenting the kind of upheavals that we saw in South Africa and Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, another story along the same line, this is from Cuz Blue. Over in Oregon, their Department of Education is promoting an online course claiming math is racist because it requires a correct answer. And we did mention this a while back, and the point I made when this story first came on out is math is the language of science and engineering, and if you don't insist on getting the correct answer, you're going to have bad science and bad engineering. And I don't want to be driving across a bridge that was designed by somebody who didn't think it was important to get the correct answer on their calculations. I don't want to ride in an airplane that was designed by somebody who thinks it's racist to get the right answer on their calculations. This is a very, very destructive, damaging thing that they're pushing out there. And here's how ridiculous it's getting. This is coming from womensystems.com, where they're claiming that robots that are painted white are also proof of racism. And yes, a lot of robots are being painted white. I think it's for reasons of temperature control and visibility, although a lot of the robots coming out of Boston Dynamics do not fit into that model. But the idea that robots that are painted white is proof of racism, I think that is absolutely, absolutely absurd. It is just plain silly. A little bit of common sense breaking out down in Florida. Their Senate has passed a bill promoting intellectual freedom and viewpoint diversity in colleges. In other words, this bill will require post-secondary educational institutions to survey students about their political views and prohibit universities from limiting speech that may be uncomfortable, disagreeable, or offensive. We got to take a break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Hey there, are you going to wait till the cows come home to get your new ease-off drop-and lift?
What in the world is an ease-off drop-and lift?
Our ease-off is a new tool to increase production for your meat processing company that will get that whole hog or half a beef on or off your rail with our remote control.
That sounds great, but can I afford it?
Sure, and the ease-off installs fast. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue, speed up your line, and increase profits.
Okay, I'm convinced. Where can I get my ease-off?
Go to easeoff.com. That's EAZEOFF.com. And hurry, because we're offering free shipping for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too.
Ease-off, LLC, 417-932-6419.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, Do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus.
$500 gets you 2 Commander memberships at Front Sight. $500 for 2 Commander memberships. Give one to whomever you would like.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children.
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mark, I've talked with you before about this lunacy regarding math and racism.
Yes.
And that just drives me crazy. Look, without math, there's no science, there's no engineering, there's no high tech, and there's no successful commerce.
No.
Now think about that. So let's say one of these snowflakes who thinks that math is racist, and I think I've used this example to you before, walks into a convenience store, buys something for $2.50, plops down a $5 bill, and gets $1 in return. I bet at that point that a correct answer is going to be very important.
I would say so. I would say so. This idea that math is racist for demanding a correct answer, it's absurd. And I think it illustrates just how wacko the entire country has gone.
Yeah, the country is off its rocker. I mean, this is absolutely nuts. To say that a correct answer in mathematics is racist is to me it's just the height of absurdity. You know, and this is coming out of these institutions, loony bins we call universities right now. You know, I spent a lot of time at universities in my life, going through 3 degrees. You know, and I love them, but they have become nothing but indoctrination centers, and I'm at a point at which I think state legislatures are going to have to start dictating to the universities what they can and can't teach, or start just defunding them and shutting them down. Period. Right now, there are too many people flocking to universities who have no business in higher education. They barely got out of high school. That they can't read at a high school level. They're not prepared to study anything of a serious nature. Yet the universities accept these people, and what they do is they just indoctrinate people in this politically correct nonsense.
Yes.
And this BS about math being racist is but one example. You have many other examples, such as speaking proper English.
Yes.
That's racist. Not reading the Western canon. That's racist. Well, okay, if it's not acceptable to read the great writers, the great white writers of the Western Hemisphere, please tell me which great writers of ancient Africa do you propose to read? I'd like to know.
Yeah, so would I.
What great works of literature have come out of Africa? I mean, you have some coming out of South America, comparatively a lot more coming out of South America. But the great works of literature, the great works of art, are all Western. And that includes Russia.
That's a little fuzzy here. And getting on back to the math issue, I mean, the people of India traditionally are very good mathematicians. In fact, Srinivasa Ramanujan is considered the world's greatest number theorist, and I wonder how the people of India are feeling when they're being told getting the correct answer to a calculation makes them racist.
Oh, and look, I agree with you there, and I overstated the point. I've known many Indians, many talented Indian mathematicians and engineers. They're very good. They're very good at what they do, and there's a long cultural history in India that prizes education. But India is but one country, and that you have the eastern countries, Japan, which has always had a premium on education.
Yes.
Korea has always done that. China, in recent decades, has done so. But the great university systems of the world came out of where? They came out of the West, and then they spread across the world. But what's happened now is that the universities have just been undermined by these left-wing nuts, these Frankfurt School idiots,
yes,
who have infiltrated it from top to bottom and have undermined the curriculum. They've trashed the Western canon, and they've done their very best to use that to destroy education and cultural institutions in the West. So next time somebody tells you that math is racist, give them the example I gave you about the guy walking into a convenience store and ask him, well, do you want the correct answer, or is he so enumerate that he wouldn't know the difference between $1 and $2.50 in return?
Well, I went through an experience like that when I taught a year of remedial math at the high school level when I still lived in Southern California. And this is going back a long time ago. And we had this room full of calculators. And I remember walking in there and saying, calculators are the last thing these kids need, because the reason they're in remedial math is they don't understand mathematics. And if they do something wrong on the calculator, they have no way of looking at it and intuiting that they're getting a wrong answer. But the school administration was very firm and said, no, just teach them how to use the calculators. And maybe that's what's going on with this math is racist idea, is to get everybody dependent on what the computers tell them is going on rather than thinking for themselves. Anyway, Kelly, stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show here. We have phone lines open right now, area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with Kelly in Austin about this idea that math is racist because it demands a correct answer. And it really is getting very silly. I think it was about a week ago there was a story that now sheet music is considered racist because it embodies the Western model of music. And to me, that's, we could always print, white notes on black paper if that's going to make them feel any better. But it really is part of the dumbing down of the population as a whole.
Yeah, it really is, and it's depressing when you see the depths of which American education has sunk. I think American universities arguably were, at the top of the heap in higher education in the world, for decades. But you look at what they become now, and they're nothing more than indoctrination centers. If you compare the rigor of education here with the rigor of education elsewhere, when I got my PhD, they beat the hell out of you.
Yes, they do.
But you look elsewhere now, and American students. So you take American high school students. They cannot compete with students from Japan, from South Korea, from China, from Germany, and from Russia. Well, most Western European countries. So while Americans are obsessing about coming up with politically correct mathematical answers to questions, the Russians and the Japanese want the correct answer.
Yes, they do.
These people are going to lead. They're going to lead science and technology in the future, and America will fall further and further behind as it becomes more and more obsessed with racial equity. This is absurd. If there's a reason to want to get out of this country, to me, that's one reason to get the hell out and go somewhere else. This country is falling apart at the seams. Anyway,
yeah, it is.
I've said that's my rant. Yeah, that's my rant, Mike. I'm sure the people have got their thoughts on the matter, and I'm curious what they might have to say about it. But you have to admit that is really something. It's infuriating and it's distressing to hear.
Yeah, it really is, and it's so short-sighted because these students who can't compete with foreign students means we're going to have workers who can't compete with foreign workers. And it's one of the reasons why so many of the tech companies are bringing in foreign workers under the H-1B visa program is because, they're better trained and better educated than our people are.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, we'll have to import more and more of our scientists and engineers and physicians. It's just, the country's becoming a basket case, Mike, and it's just depressing. It's distressing as all hell.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, I've had my rant for the day, so thanks for taking the call.
All right, Kelly, thank you for the phone call. Phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. Call on in. Spend the rest of the show with us, and we're going to go to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, a whole lot, especially with the education.
Okay.
Confidence creates confidence. When they're undermining everything, these kids don't know how to read. They don't teach them phonics. They teach them new math, which is not math. They teach them global warming, which is not true in any, manner, way, shape, form, or fashion. You just can't even make that work. You know what I mean? Carbon dioxide. You have to pump it into the greenhouse to make your plants grow faster. I grow mushrooms, so I get more carbon dioxide in my greenhouse. Okay? It's just plain old science, but they're not learning real science.
No, they're not.
That man was absolutely correct. If you look at William Schmidt, it's the American, I can't remember the name of the test, but it's the International Math and Science Test, and we're like 24th in reading English, 40-something in math, 40-something in science. I mean, we just are way down there. What did William Schmidt say the problem was? He said lack of focus, and lack of curriculum, and lack of focus. It means you don't spend time focused on what matters, on what works. Life is simple. Truth just is. It's not complicated. There's no debating it. There's just observing it. That's what a good scientist does. He observes.
Yes.
You respect it. You don't try to change it. You don't form it to your will, whatever your willy-nilly will is at the moment, and that's the whole point. We are being misdirected. The children are being brainwashed and dumbed down, and this is not just the last 20 years. This has been going on since the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
So, how do you get to a point where you can literally, the governor of Virginia is a pediatric transplant doctor who's passed laws that allow them to butcher babies. They take orders. They take this child, put it in a special ward, and butcher that baby for parts and money so they can buy Lamborghinis, and it's all on tape, and nobody cares. Our problem isn't our government. Our problem is us. When the Bible says, in the end times, the wicked will do wickedly, and they won't even blush. They won't even blush about it. They don't even know there's anything wrong. Those kids down on the border just having orgies, open sex, brothers, sisters. I mean, everybody's doing it, all kind of kinky stuff, because that's what's been done to them. They're being trafficked. And here we sit, giving them our money, complaining and whining. Oh, are you kidding me? You just had more people land on these shores than landed to take over D-Day in 3 months, and they're going to keep this going. Why? Because, you gave them $900 billion, then they hit you for $2 trillion, now they're coming for $4 trillion, and they're going to keep coming because you keep ponying up. You keep filling that piggy bank. Man, you expect these criminals to stop doing what they're doing? Those same filthy, disgusting creatures that were in office and betrayed this country before Donald Trump got into office are all right back there. And then there's the Republicans, Christopher Wray, who still can't figure out to do with Hunter Biden's computer. And thinking that Barr was going to do anything when Barr's daddy hired Jeffrey Epstein to run the girls' school.
Yes.
It's just a filthy. And the thing is, we as Americans, why are we handing our children over to live a life? And I'm sorry if people love your schools, and my kid's an honor student, and I like the sports. But the thing is, if you look at these other countries, sports ain't where it's at. Those Russians, it's mathematics. They do sports too, and they got their specialists in sports. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But what I'm saying is they didn't set aside the real things of life. They're not trying to cut their boys' testicles off. You got that man in a dress up there as the health secretary. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And that's what I mean. We're a joke because we're a joke. This is ridiculous. You give them your money. You do what they say. You let them have your children. And all I can think is, okay, they gave the Indians smallpox blankets, and now they're giving Americans coronavirus shots. And here the SPARS 2025-2028 document shows the whole thing, how to lay it out, how to MCM, medical contravention measures.
Yes.
So basically, don't let the doctors talk. Get as many people to take it before they figure out what we've done to them. And this is what's going on. And that's what I'm saying. Now the big attack, did you see the Saturday Night Live on the black people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because last week it was Tuskegee, because, you know, us black folks, we know what's going on. We watched them do the AIDS thing in Africa. And who did that? AIDS, brought to you by Anthony the Rat Fauci. There he is. Here he is again. That little mother. And that's what I'm saying. And you're going to bend over and do what he says? What a joke. And that's what I'm saying. It all comes down to, we let him have control of our education. Now I call us the new American A's, arrogant, ignorant, and selfish.
Okay.
We're so smart, we won't bother to look into anything. We're ignorant. We don't understand what's going on around us because the shape of the world looks like what came in your eye gate and your ear gate as you developed.
Yes.
My children are homeschooled. They don't know anything about sports teams. They don't know anything about being cool. They don't know anything about, but they know Shakespeare. They read encyclopedias for fun. They're naturopathic doctors trained. They know where everything in the world is. Every country, every continent. They know the socioeconomics. They know the wars. They know the real history of America. They know the Constitution is a body of negative law to limit the maids and the butlers. That's what the deal is. We, the capital C citizens, all the way through the 12th Amendment, we are the free kings. We are those white men that said, you will not rule us the way you rule those brown skins in India and those black people in Africa. We are your cousins, and we will not be ruled by you. They controlled our economy, 1791 to 1811, and they almost destroyed this country.
Yes.
And we had the War of 1812, and my ancestors, Raymond Demery, Major General Raymond Demery, was aide-de-camp for Washington in the late 1700s, and then was the other Demery was worked with Oglethorpe's regiment to defend the United States against the British. And what you had was a cessation of againstness. That there was no, what they said, okay, we'll leave you alone, but they still want to rule you. And the way they rule you is with these lies. All we have to do is take back our lives. Start running your own stuff. Borrow from friends, family, when you need a loan. Stop going to these banks, paying these ridiculous amounts, and everybody taking these risks and all this crazy nonsense. I mean, when we had a tulip bulb craze, at least there really was a tulip bulb. Now you got people. Are you kidding me? It's like Bill Gates put into the Google thing, who's the biggest doctor in the world? And the Google says Bill Gates. And it's like, okay, and this is what I mean. It's not even hidden from us, but because we've been so sheltered, so cloistered in what we see. My children's view of the world, it's like talking to, my son's 13. You talk to him, it's like talking to an adult, talking to a whole person. They look you in the eyes. They've never worn a mask. No vaccines. They're like all there. And that's what I mean. There's a difference in what's being created. They want to merge with machines. They want to merge you with the machine so they can control you. You're going to be like the Underborg from Star Trek. You know the pretty girl, the Susanna, I can't remember her name. You know, the Borg Queen?
Yes.
She got to do the thinking. Now, I go between the cogs and the COGs. The COGs are, children of God. And we're going to do what God says do. The cogs are the people willing to fit into the machine. And this is why they're so discontented and so afraid, because they know they are not competent. They don't have any real skill sets. People that work for the government can't make anything that you can sell for $1. Teachers can't make anything that you can sell for $1. And I don't have anything against teachers. I ran for state school board. I'm telling you, they're doing it on purpose.
Yes.
And so we have the power to change it. Just take your children out of these schools. You've got people, all these teachers that are out of work.
Yes.
You've got nurses. Get yourself into some naturopathy. Learn how the body really works. Let's start, take the vitamin D and the vitamin C. It's good enough for Anthony Fauci, isn't it?
Yes.
He told me after they killed all those people, and then he only said it because somebody asked, and, he's starting to try to cover his tracks because all this back and forth thing that they're doing.
Yes.
Oh, which, by the way, I'll tell you this real quick and shut up. So the back and forth thing in that plan, the SPARS 2025 to 2028 document, and so they tell you how, we'll go back and forth and pretend we're not sure, and then we'll settle on that we need to take vaccines, and that's the only way. And now the new attack's going to be on the black people, Tuskegee that wouldn't take it, because we have better sense than most of you people. No offense, but when you've been kicked in the head a whole lot, the ones that are still alive know what that boot coming towards your face looks like.
Yes.
Or we get out of the way. Or we grab that foot and throw that piece of crap over. And that's what I'm saying. We need to get on the offense, stop doing what these people say. Think for yourself. You are fully capable, and you have all the tools. Republic, and by the way, send $10 a month to Republic. I send them a check for $120, and I just tell them, put it on my card every month, $10 a month. That doesn't hurt me. You know what I mean? And I'm poor. I mean, I do pretty much everything I do free, and I mean, I'm really... Everybody can pitch in on this. It's more than just running your mouth. I mean, I'm running my mouth, I know, and I'm not trying to boss anybody. I'm just saying, do you really want to obey people that openly say we want to kill you and have done it before? And it's the same people in charge, the same families, generation after generation, and you're going to give them your energy. All money is your energy. If you don't let them direct your energy, they've lost. The money means nothing. The Bitcoin means nothing. The whatever somebody says means nothing. Can you eat it? Can you drink it? Can you sleep in it? Can you wear it? God says what's real is gold, silver, land, and cattle. And what are they after? Bill Gates is buying up the farmland. He's putting in genetically engineered seed. Oh, now that you're genetically engineered, why can't you just eat this genetically engineered food and these bugs we want to feed you? Because we're in white coats and we're doctors and we're smarter than you and we say it's okay. That's what I'm saying. You better get back to that Bible. If you don't believe it, that's fine, but it's still the rule book. It's still the way to get the best and the most out of these units in this time and space continuum. So I'll shut up and get off. But and wait. And one more thing.
Yes.
Quit giving the money. Please have Kel B. Smith on. Look at his site and see what you think. But, I mean, I've watched this guy for years. I've seen this. I didn't bother with any of this before because I just tell them. And they get right out of your way. Honest to God, if people understood the power you have, just as a man, as a king on the land, you don't have to, they're just men. You don't have men telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're telling you, kill yourself, cut your throat, cut your wrist, throw your baby in the volcano. And we're doing it. That's the crazy thing. We've got to stop now. If we've already done the shot, fine, but start remediation. Get on the vitamin D. Do the detox, clay, charcoal. I mean, there are things that you can do to help yourself.
Yes.
So I'm just saying we have to change our perspective, stop responding to what they throw at us. Whatever news. I don't listen to news. I listen to you guys, and you sort through the news well enough for me because I'm just not willing to spend my time. The only thing that I have. What did Sean, that guy from, I think Facebook, Sean... one of the big tech guys, he said, we want all of your time.
Yeah.
We literally...
Well, that's where they make their money. Anyway, listen, Lauren, I hate to cut you off, but we're going to have to let you go. We got to take a commercial break. We have one more segment left in today's show, area code 512-248-8252, and we will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in. put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extendivite's 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Born in the city with a silver spoon, great-grandson of the oil tycoon, raised by wolves, thinks he owns the moon, socialist banker to the one-world goons, Davy Rockefeller, chairman of the CFR.
Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. We're going to go back to the phones to Daniel in North Dakota. Hello, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hanging in.
Good. Hey, you know, you guys been talking about this white hate woke movement.
Yes.
Oh, you know, I just want to say that there is a connection, and I believe it's a prophetic connection to the end-time prophecies, where God says that he's going to bring all the people from all four corners of the world back to Israel. And so I've been thinking for a long time that America is going to face a future, what you were talking about in South Africa. I believe it's going to happen to America, an American Holocaust. You know, that's what I could see happening, and it's happening every day, you know, on the news. It's all you hear about lately, right?
Yes.
It's wild. And also, I wanted to bring up, there's these two guys, and I don't remember their names, but I just did I was doing some research on Antichrist and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, on March 27th, I don't know if you heard about this guy. I can't pronounce his first name, but his middle name is...
Hello?
And rumors are is that Israel's about to pronounce this guy their Messiah. And the second one is that I've been hearing that the Queen of England has been replaced by this other man, and that the Pope has stepped down and given this guy James power as basically the Pope.
Well, that's kind of a little out there. Let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely, Mike. But I thought it was an interesting thing that both of these specific men are popping up at the same time. So if this is true, man, maybe we are in those end times.
I'm hearing a lot of Christians saying that they believe we're at the edge of the end times. But then, there have been literally hundreds of times in history where everyone said it's the end times, it's the apocalypse, and the world is going to come to an end, and the Messiah is going to return, and it did not happen. So I'm not holding my breath for this particular time. Anyway, listen.
Well, I certainly hope you're right.
Okay, well, Daniel, I got to let you go. We're getting close to the end of the show here. And a little bit of news before the sign-off music here. United Airlines announced Tuesday that it will increase the number of women and people of color who become pilots. They want 50% of their pilots trained in the next decade to be women or people of color. And again, what about we just find the people who are best natural pilots and not worry about some wokeness, politically correct checklist here. Meanwhile, for those people in Florida, they have lifted the evacuation order for residents and business owners around that wastewater reservoir with the radioactive phosphorus runoff, and they've managed to drain enough of that where they're no longer concerned that it will collapse, and so that disaster has been avoided. There's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. It is very urgent at this particular time. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Aloha, America.